Hey everyone, and welcome to Empowered by Self-Love, the podcast. My name is Jessica Fuentes, and I am a certified professional coach. I will be here every Saturday talking about transformation. How to transform those difficulties you encounter throughout your life into lessons. How can you transform that victim mindset into one of opportunity and growth? If you want to transform your life, the key is to learn and realize that you have everything you need within yourself. If you are looking for a safe place to find inspiration, motivation, and the tools to become empowered, then this is the podcast to listen to. This podcast is brought to you by my website, Empowered-SelfLove.com. Thank you for joining me every Saturday, and I want to thank you all for listening every week. Thank you for your support and for making Empowered by Self-Love, the podcast, part of your Saturday routine. I am extremely thankful and grateful for your warm welcome. My hope is to bring you the tools that enriches your life and that helps you become more empowered. So thank you for sharing with your friends and family, and let's continue to spread the knowledge and the inspiration. In this episode, I will be talking about relationship realities, different dynamics, different stories. Hi there, happy Saturday! I wish that you're feeling well, full of energy, and ready for today's episode. I welcome you to another episode of Empowered by Self-Love, the podcast. I am your host, Jessica Fuentes, and today I want to talk about the different dynamics that exist in the different relationships that we have with other people. Have you ever been surprised to find out that someone you love, respected, and looked up to did something you never thought that person was even capable of doing? Well, I have. I actually experienced it firsthand. A person very dear to me, whom I admired, trusted blindly, and saw as a role model, turned out to be someone else. And learning that about that person was shocking, was disappointing, and even heartbreaking. I knew a wonderful version of that person, a version that I thought was incapable of harming the closest people in that person's life, a version that was responsible and that was correct. I trusted this person with my eyes closed. But unfortunately, I got to know another version of this same person. And as unbelievable as it was a reality. And why talk about this topic? Why bring it up? Well, because we all know a version of the people we interact with. We don't know everything about our friends, our colleagues, our siblings, or even our children or parents. We know one version, maybe two versions of them. But people have other versions of themselves. I mean, think about it. Are you the same exact person in front of your boss that you are with your spouse? Or the same person that you are with your siblings and with your parents? Look, it's not that you're faking it, but I am sure that you're not. Not because you want to pretend to be someone else, but we behave a certain way in front of certain people based on the relationship that we have with them. You might know a version of your grandparents that is completely different to the version that your mom or your dad knows. I have also seen how different my mom is with my children compared to how she was with me or with my sisters. Listen, if your parents are still alive and you have children of your own, I am sure that you have noticed this difference that I'm talking about. My children don't know the same version of my parents that I knew when I was a kid. Besides, people change because, they grow, they experience different things in life, and they go through their own processes. And their behavior might be different also due to whatever experiences everyone has. But it's important to understand the different dynamic that exists between people. And this is what I want to focus on today. We need to understand that there is a difference between the relationship that you have with your parents versus the relationship that your parents have or had with their spouses. I want us to focus particularly on that type of relationship, parents and children's relationships. When there is a family relationship, the family sees almost everything that's going on in the household, right? Wrong. As a child, you don't get to see everything that your parents are going through in their relationship. You don't know if they're having problems in their intimacy in bed. You don't know if they're having financial problems. You don't know as a child if one of them is experiencing some sort of addiction. And there's so many addictions that I'm not going to even mention here. So you really don't know everything that is going on in their intimate relationship, even when you're living on the same household. First of all, the role of the parents is to protect you. And if they are really having trouble in their intimate relationship, they shouldn't allow you to be involved in that. Or would you want them to be involved in your romantic relationships? I personally don't want my parents involved. And I have never involved them in my personal relationships. One thing is to ask for advice on a specific topic. But another thing is to really, really, really understand what's going on deep inside every relationship or any relationship. So this is why when there is a divorce, it's really not about the children. It is about the intimate romantic relationship of the parents and the version that your mother knows of your dad, for example, or vice versa, your dad knows of your mom, is a completely different version than the one you know because you build a different relationship with each parent. Same as if you have multiple siblings, you build a different relationship with each of your siblings. You don't have the exact same relationship with either of them. So even if your parents broke up due to an infidelity, it is their relationship. And yes, it could affect you because obviously you get disappointed, but you don't have all the information. You don't know all of the things that they went through that took one of the parents that route. And this is a heavy topic, I understand, but I think it would be unfair for you to judge or penalize the parent that cheated, for example. Because at the end of the day, it is their relationship. I mean, I could understand that if you saw abuse going on, if you saw addictions going on, and then the breakup was because of that, you were involved. The behavior affected you directly because you were present when the other person was behaving in a wrong way in front of you, right? But that's not the case in here. I mean, I don't want to focus on extreme cases, even though they exist. And it is unfortunate, but I have not experienced it directly, so I cannot talk about it. I don't diminish it, but I cannot talk about something I have not experienced. So that's why I want to focus on the typical or most common type of relationships and the reasons why we should separate how we feel about one parent versus how we feel about the other, because they're different people. And if they broke up, we shouldn't judge. So let's say your mother ended up hating your dad because of their intimate relationship, whatever it was. It would be unfair to you if she attempts to deposit her hatred upon yourself. And we see this happen too often. And what happens to this child that is exposed to the mom talking shit about the dad? Well, as a child, you really don't understand what's going on unless you're an adult. And still, as an adult, you also get affected. So, what will happen? You will probably begin to judge the other parent because you're now influenced by the opinion and by the version of the story of only one parent. And maybe you will never cheat. Maybe that's the case. That's why your mom hates your dad. Maybe that's the case. But in your eyes and in your head, cheating is something unacceptable, something that should never happen. And it is something more common than you could imagine. But the fact that your dad did that, for example, assuming it was the dad, because infidelity comes from both ways, okay? I have seen it, and it comes both ways. Why do you want to hate your other parent? Why hate the other parent? Because your mom is emotionally damaged, or because you saw something, or because you were disappointed. I understand the feelings of disappointment. I understand the frustration. I understand you kind of identify with your mom's emotions, or vice versa, if it's the other way around. But as a parent, you shouldn't deposit the hatred upon your children because it is none of their business. The healthy approach is to simply not share intimate details of your relationship as a parent with your children. So using this example, let's try to understand the different dynamics in different relationships. The parents and child or children dynamic. This relationship is often characterized by authority, by guidance, and by nurturing. So the role of parents is to care and to support their children and their needs. Now, there's also the individual's relationship, meaning mom and child, dad and child. Each person develops a different relationship with each of the children involved in the household. And this can be more personal because obviously they're influenced by individual personalities and shared interests and personal histories. For instance, maybe one parent might be more fun than the other, more loving than the other, more serious than the other, more disciplined than the other. So your relationship with that parent will be completely different than the relationship you will have with the other parent. Now, there's also the relationship between the parents, the mom and the dad's relationship. That's a partner's relationship, and it involves a different kind of dynamic. Obviously, intimacy, shared values, and their desire to live a life together. So it is crucial to maintain a distinction and to maintain boundaries between the parents' intimate and romantic relationship and the parents' relationship with the children, because you cannot mix them up. There has to be boundaries. And by the way, it is healthy to have boundaries in every relationship you have. And there are lines that should never be crossed in order for you to have a healthy relationship with everybody. So how do you establish, or how do you do this? How do you know how to build better relationships? You first need to acknowledge the differences. Recognize that each parent is an individual and they have their own needs, their own strengths, their weaknesses, and their unique perspectives and personalities. This will allow you to personalize your interactions with them individually. Second, it's important to establish boundaries. Setting boundaries is essential because it maintains a healthy relationship with both of your parents. And this involves setting limits. How much advice do you want from them? How much involvement do you want in their relationship? And how much involvement do you want them to have in your relationships and in your life in general? Number three, it's also important to communicate effectively. Be open and be honest because that is the key to navigating these different dynamics. Talk to your parents about your needs, about your boundaries, and how their behavior and their comments affects you and how those comments make you feel. If you have divorced parents and they are constantly talking shit about each other, you have all the right to establish a boundary and not allow that type of conversation to happen in front of you. Their relationship was between them and your involvement is inadequate. Number four, you can also practice empathy. You can also try understanding your parents' perspectives and their motivations. Even if you don't agree with them, you don't have to agree with them. At the end of the day, your parents are human too, and they are allowed to have their own feelings and their own emotions. This can help foster more understanding and even more respect. And it can also help you separate their feelings from yours. If your mom hates your dad for whatever reason, you don't have to hate him. Because again, she knows a version that you will never know of him. Or vice versa. If your dad hates your mom and he talks shit about her, it shouldn't affect you. You need to block it. And you need to also establish the limits. But it shouldn't affect you because it had nothing to do with you. Number five, it's also important to seek professional help. Because if you feel like you're struggling when you navigate these complex dynamics, or you struggle with your emotions when all of this shit show is happening, consider seeking guidance from a therapist or from a counselor, because this can help you identify the unhealthy patterns and therefore help you develop healthier coping mechanisms. And this is also very important because sometimes we are not equipped to handle our parents. And whether it is we feel intimidated or we feel like if we speak up we are being disrespectful to them, or whatever the reason, if you are feeling uncomfortable and overwhelmed, it will be great to seek professional help. Remember that when you ask for help, you are braver than others who don't. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to express in today's episode is that every relationship is different. And you will know a version of a person that could be completely different than the version of the same person in the eyes of someone else. I have heard so many people say, I know my dad and he will never do this, or that. Have you caught yourself saying that? Or, my brother will never be an aggressive person. But then again, some people can generate an unexpected reaction on the most peaceful person. So we should never assume. Someone could be accumulating a lot of rejection in a relationship, or even feelings of abandonment inside the relationship that nobody is aware of. And that pushes that person to become a cheater. As human as you are, and as imperfect as you sometimes are as well, so are your parents. They are human too, and they are allowed to make mistakes and to mess up. Look, I'm a mother, and I know this because I have made mistakes. I have made mistakes many, many times that sometimes I would feel ashamed if my children knew about my mistakes. But I am human and I am allowed to make mistakes. It is part of life. It is part of growing. It is part of my development, part of your growth. It is part of our development. And this also applies to all sorts of relationships. Relationships with your boss, with your colleagues, with your friends, with your siblings. They are all human and they are experiencing different situations and phases in their lives. And our relationship with them could only show just the tip of the iceberg. Because every person has a history, every person has challenges, and every person has emotional burdens that we are not aware of. So, as I wrap up today's episode, I feel it was loaded, but my hope is to shed some light on the complexities of relationships and the dynamics of the different relationships that we get to experience in life, and the importance of understanding the different versions of people in our lives. As this quote says, and this quote was written by an unknown person, we are not the same person to everyone. We are different versions of ourselves depending on who we are with. Remember, every relationship is unique, and it's essential to approach them with empathy, with clear boundaries, and with open communication. As you navigate your relationships, be kind to yourself and be kind to others, recognizing that we are all human and capable of growth and change. If you feel that this is a message you connected with, I am very glad and happy that this will be the beginning of an extraordinary journey of transformation and empowerment for you. So remember that we have a date every Saturday. You can't miss the next episode, in which I will be talking about the role of vulnerability, strength in openness. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and I hope that you enjoyed it and that it brought some perspective as well as hope. If there is any particular topic you would like me to discuss, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email at jessica.fuentes@empowered-selflove.com. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find me there as empowered.selflove. I also encourage you to visit my webpage, empowered-selflove.com, and explore more about what coaching is all about. In the Services tab, you can sign in for the free discovery session. During the discovery session, I will explain everything you need to know about coaching, the type of coaching I specialize in, and the packages I have available for you. You can find all the links on the episode's notes. Remember, if you like this content or thought of somebody that could benefit from it, please share it with your friends and family. Remember that we have a date every Saturday, and I can't wait for us to meet again. See you next week!